would like to make a contribution to my community. Now that I am retired, I think that I have developed and honed personal skills through the years that will allow me to be an effective representative for multiple constituencies here in the city of Newnan.
Okay, so what sort of strengths do you think you'd bring to the board?
I am a logical thinker. I'm a person who will tell you when I don't know the answer to something, I will go and find the answer to an issue or an item. I love to research. I love to learn. And I think that those are qualities that you want in an elected representative. So if I don't know it, I'll find out about it. Community. We have this incredible gem of a historic community. In some ways, I would say our location is a strength, but other areas it may be a bit of a detriment, or some difficulties may arise because of it. But yeah, we have really great people here, and it's a good place to live. And I'd like to see that it's a good place to live and plan for its future. Well, we have a lot of, I know from a personal standpoint, I have been a community volunteer. And part of the volunteer effort that I have undertaken as a member of the Farmer Street Cemetery Commission is I have learned what government can do for us on a local level and what government's limits are. I've learned that government is very slow to respond, but once you do get over the inertia, that you can accomplish really good mutual goals for all of us. Public safety will always be the biggest challenge for any municipality. And in our particular case, we are faced with challenges that are not unique to many cities of our size, in that we have had a deficit in the number of police officers. We have a very stable fire department, but our police department, we haven't had enough police officers. It has very much affected their ability to do the job, and the personal stresses in a job that is already a very stressful job have been enormous. Chief Blankenship has come on board. He has made hires. They are filling some of the gaps. They still have work to do in that respect, but we do see progress in the number of police officers. And I want to make sure as a city council person that we offer competitive pay with benefit packages that will attract the very best of policing to our community. Crime is real. People are suffering from it in this town, and we have to address that effectively, and part of that is making sure that we have those resources. One example with our fire department is that we've opened the 4th fire station in the community. That has lowered our rating from a 4 to a 2, and how does that affect the community? How does it affect us as individuals? It affects our insurance rates is how it affects us. So by having better response times and planning for growth and bringing that additional station on that we've done, we are experiencing lower insurance rates than we otherwise would have. So those are things that directly impact an individual living in our town. I also want to make sure that we have competitive pay and benefit packages for city staff, because we want good people in these jobs. If we can attract quality people, we will get a quality product. I have lived, I'm a native Georgian, born and raised in Georgia, went to public high school in Atlanta, and graduated from Grady High School, went to the University of Georgia, where I got a degree in political science and history, which is highly marketable. And I thought I wanted to go to law school. My parents convinced me that I did not want to go to law school. They were both lawyers, so I took their advice and did not go to law school. But I worked for a family business for a few years, so I do have small business experience. And then I got tired of working for my parents. It was stressful. So I decided to see the world, and I became a flight attendant for American Airlines. And I left Georgia and was gone for 20 years. I've lived all over the country. I have lived in downtown Chicago and suburban Chicago, Park City, Utah, outside of Salt Lake City, Keller, Texas, which is a few miles outside of Fort Worth, Texas. I have lived in downtown New Orleans, which I just loved living there. That was a great place to live. I have lived in a little town in outside of Washington, D.C., Warrenton, Virginia, which shares a lot of similarities to Newnan and a lot of the issues that we face here in Newnan. Then we, after 9/11, for my husband's job, we ended up moving and living in upstate New York in the Hudson River Valley, where as a later student in life, I retired from flying, and I went and attended the Culinary Institute of America. Got a degree from there. Yes, I am a real chef. You ask me what my specialty is, I cook everything because I can. During the period of time after I left flying, I became a certified residential real property appraiser. And I appraised for quite a long time, both in Virginia and in Georgia. Then we moved back to Georgia after we left New York, and the happiest day of our married life was the day that we sold the snowblower in New York and got out of there. And I have not had to shovel snow since. It's not fun. But we moved back to Georgia, moved out to Morgan County, Madison, another small town outside of the big urban area that shares a lot of similarities with Newnan, and it has a great quality of life. But when Delta Airlines was looking like it was going into bankruptcy, we sold the farmette that was not making any money, and we came to Newnan. Okay. And Newnan became a refuge for us. And
so when was that?
That was 2005, I believe. We were ahead of the curve on that, but it's about 2005 when we moved here from Madison. And then after a few years, I decided that I had enough of appraising, and I retired. In Warrenton, I served on their Main Street Commission, one of my community volunteer ideas that I served, and I was responsible for surveying the business membership in that town and understanding what their needs were. And so I had a lot of opportunities to sit down with businessmen to understand what they needed from their city, what they needed from their community, what they were trying to accomplish. And as I said, it had a lot of commonalities with Newnan, with the people and business people and their needs. That would be one instance of where I did some community volunteering. While I lived in New Orleans, I was a member of the Junior League of New Orleans. And what we learned at the Junior League is a very important lesson. For every hour of volunteering, you get 3 hours of expertise given to a community. So it is a multiplying factor for every one of us who does do some kind of volunteering or service in our community that actually is exponential in its effect. We have a lot of good people in this community who do a lot of volunteering. I think the Samaritan Clinic is an excellent example of that. As I said, I'm a very logical thinker. I'm the girl that you want next to you when you have an emergency. I think very clearly, very calmly. I consider things carefully. I like to see all sides of an issue. I do see shades of gray rather than black and white. And I like to build consensus with people wherever possible. I got involved sort of by happenstance in the controversy over the Caldwell Tanks apartment project that had been proposed. And that was a true grassroots effort of the community to speak up and say that this would be a tragic use of that property if we allowed that kind of development on that parcel. And I continue to believe that that is the situation. The strength that I brought to that particular situation was that I did a fair amount of research because of my appraisal background and understanding of commercial property to understand what was motivating the gentleman who wanted that project in that spot, and pretty well figured out that he was not doing it because he wanted to build our community and create a wonderful thing for us. Rather, he had some serious capital gains tax issues, and this was a vehicle for him to exit those tax issues with a profit. Now, there's no problem with somebody putting their money on the line and wanting to make a profit. I want to be clear about that. But he was using our community for his benefit and not ours. And I think that it has been a wonderful thing that the City Council and the mayor stepped up, purchased that property, and now we, the people of Newnan, will determine its fate. It has some great possibilities, and I know that they're working very hard on that right now. I think we're all going to be very pleased with the results. At least most of us will be pleased with the results. But that's really where I got started, and I don't have a problem getting up in front of people and telling them ugly truths, and I'm afraid that's kind of what I had to do at the City Council, because we had a few people who were resistant. And that's understandable. You know, they needed to know everything about what was going on with that, but the fact was that it was the wrong project for our community in that place. Well, I think that the major thing, because I serve on the Farmer Street Cemetery Commission, before I ran for this office, I wanted to make certain that I could continue to serve on the commission. We are almost 3 years into it, 2.5 years into it. Actually, in October, I think we're going to be taking some votes on the commission to prepare our recommendation to the City Council for the promotion, protection, and preservation of what is a very interesting potential asset to our community. Now, if you would like to know about the Farmer Street Cemetery, I will be happy to give you an interview on that subject alone at some time, because I can go way into the weeds on that, about how exciting it's going to be for our community. But I want to make sure that that is taken care of. It's a small item in some cases, but it's a big item to people in certain communities. And I want to see it completed. It's going to be fabulous. We talk about preparing our city for growth. Well, the fact is that growth is here. And we in the city are better prepared for it, I would say, than the county is. But we need to continue to foster initiatives to make sure that the growth that we have here in the city is controlled growth and desirable growth. Desirable growth is growth in all quadrants of our city. It is growth that brings good people, good jobs, good community together. I'll give you an example of a situation to segue into something slightly off your question, but I was approached by a number of people who live over in the Coal Town over on Salbeatty Avenue. I know y'all are familiar with the awful events that we had there a few weeks ago, where 2 people and a dog were killed at a house over there, and that's a case of growth, and I'll get to that point. We have a absentee landlord who has a property over there that is using it as a boarding house, probably not selling drugs out of it, but people are going there to use their drugs. And those people and the behaviors that permits are terrorizing that neighborhood. I was asked to go to a community meeting and attend it by some friends, and it's not my neighborhood. But I went to it, and I wanted to hear what was going on. And I have to tell you, we had a lot of important stakeholders there. The mayor, city councilman, city manager, and a number of department heads, along with the police chief. And people began to tell the story of what was going on in their community, in that little neighborhood. And I was horrified. It's just not that far from my house. To hear how they were having to live because of drug users and bad people who were taking advantage of this neighborhood. And it's just wrong. And so that takes it back to public safety. But in order to solve the problems that were happening on that street, it takes a multi-point focus. It takes Newnan Utilities to get out there and survey the lighting on the streets and refocus lights and make sure that there are enough lights. And sure enough, they added some stuff there. It takes the police chief making sure that there are plenty of patrols in that area. And the first night he was over there with a group, they made a number of very interesting arrests as people were cycling through the neighborhood. We discovered at the meeting that we had not gotten another code enforcement officer since our population has increased. The code enforcement, Mr. Stevenson, it's just him and one other individual. And so I asked the question because, like I said, I'm a fairly logical thinker, to Cletus Phillips, our city manager. Cletus, do you think that you could check into what comparable communities have as far as code enforcement goes? Because this is one of the tools in the arsenal to make sure that people live and behave in their communities as they should. And to his credit, he responded and he looked and he said, you know what? We do need another code enforcement official. We don't have enough. Went to the city council, made his case. They funded it. He has permission to hire for it. He is advertising, so if somebody wants the job, go down there and apply for it. And we're going to get another code enforcement official. And that's how you have multiple facets of your city government working to solve an issue that a community is experiencing. And I'm really glad to see it. It's taken time. It's not happening overnight. You know, for every 2 steps you take forward, sometimes you take 1 step back. But these are the sorts of things that we have to be responsive to as a city council. And, you know, I'm not just a city councilman for District A. The fact is that when you're a city councilman, you're actually a city councilman for the entire city, because people will come to you with their problems.